Everybody, welcome to State of Scrims. I believe this is our third episode, and I am joined here as usual with my what's the Hotline League joke? Constant co-host, the Mason Jars, or
Jeez.
whatever.
We're just
Um,
stealing bits from others podcasts.
True.
That's
I like listen
crazy.
to like two podcasts, so if anyone has bits that would be funny to steal, please hit me up and let me know because I have no fucking clue. Um, this week was certainly very exciting. We have a very interesting set of standings right now. We have Nutbusters at the top, 2-0, Metabusters at the bottom, 0-2, and everyone else is tied 1-1. I think a lot of the discussion before the season was that all the teams seemed pretty competitive, and I think that still kind of holds true. Obviously, Metabusters are struggling a little bit, but part of this is because I believe Hidiri is suffering from long COVID, so that's always not fun. Um, and also they're a little off the
A
meta,
little sussy
so
on the drafts, bro. But
that
like,
might be part
yeah,
of it. And then obviously Nutbusters are doing pretty well, but if one team is 0-2, that means another team has to be 2-0. So I think um, these teams do seem pretty close. I think the one thing to look out for next week is that our game versus the Nutbusters has actually been pushed back because of the Super Bowl, and I believe one of their members is doing a play over the weekend, so he will also not be super available. But the other two games should happen, hopefully, on schedule. So we'll have a bit of a lighter prediction this week going into it. But the last week of games was very fun. I actually got to watch most of them this week, so there's not going to be like one where I'm like, oh, I have no clue what's going on. Were you able to catch most of them? I think
I
you
think I casted like two of
you
them. All three?
streamed
Question
you
mark?
streamed 2 days, but I think you were coaching.
Oh yeah, I was
Yeah.
coaching
Okay.
spectators, and then the other two I was casting. So I was there for all three games
Okay.
essentially.
That's better than me. I was like half watching the first couple games of MVP versus Andromeda, but I did go back
Dude,
to
you
and watch
missed
the
out on
Bada
my
game
banger
3.
solo cast, bro. By the way, everyone that's here, I hate you for leaving me out to dry on that solo cast. Fuck you. I needed a friend and no one was there. It's crazy, bro. Anyways, y'all are fake.
I was a
But
little out of commission. Otherwise,
shake my fucking head,
when
bro.
I come over and help, I believe our first topic that we are going to discuss is we have booms and we have busts, and this week we had the nut boom, and the meta bust. Um,
Yeah.
both teams have busters in their name, but one is sitting on top of the standings and the other is sitting on the bottom of the standings. What factors do you think led to these two things happening, Mason?
Uh, I will say, I think I don't think it's like too surprising that a team like Nutbusters does come out on top. I think that I think our power rankings this season were like very very tight. Like there's a lot of like transferability between like the teams, and so like I think their read on the meta has been very solid, and the way that their execution has been almost flawless in every game. Their team play is like very very strong. You watch them coordinate their invades with their jungler like very well. They know their objective timers. They know when they're what they're doing in each game. I think, and it's like they also aren't super fumbling draft as well. I don't think I've seen a single bad draft from them. Their drafts are a little bench, but it's like it's fine. They're drafting like consistently. They're playing to win. So I really like that from them. Uh, Nothing too revolutionary in terms of draft. If Blake is not running your draft,
Yeah, I was gonna say we don't really
never
know
let
who
him near
is
the
winning the
draft again,
draft,
bro.
but
Never let him near the draft if he's not the one running draft right now.
yeah.
Like just whoever's doing draft, good job. Props to you. You
I
guys are
mean,
fucking smurfing it,
personally,
killing
my
it.
two guesses are that like the main drafter is likely either Blake or PB. I
Yeah,
know
yeah,
both of
I can
them
see that.
have a lot of game knowledge about the game, so I think it really could be either. Um,
I will say, I think PB is also like Astro smurfing in terms of support. Like the way he's setting up his AD carry for success, he's rotating with his jungler, he's moving towards mid lane to like get his laners leads. Like he deserves MVP. He's like second for MVP in every single one of his games, and I think he should have gotten it more in a couple of the other games that I wasn't there to
yeah, I
cast.
think he got it once. You've also casted all
I
their
given
games,
one to
so
him.
I don't know what you mean the games you weren't there to cast, but
No, I gave him the ones I was casting. I gave him MVP. There's no way,
this
bro.
is you've literally casted all their games. I don't know what to
This is
tell
not
you.
true. This is
Oh
strictly
wait,
not true.
true. You're right.
I wasn't there for the Metabusters one, so like,
Oh yeah, I forgot. My bad.
But like every game I have casted, I wanted to give him MVP, and I think only in one game I gave it to someone else where Blake had like a really good performance. So I think just like the support synergy with their jungler and like the rest of the map is just insane. Like shout outs to PV, bro. He's 1v9ing the season in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like really tough to call on a lot of their games too, because it's like all five players are just playing super well. It's not like they really have someone who's like doing poorly. I think like
Yeah.
the worst criticism you could possibly have about someone is that they like played weak side and just like soaked a few deaths. But everyone who did that was just doing it to kind of farther their team's advantage
Hmm.
in the game. And like sometimes
I
you just kind of
agree.
have to be the sacrificial lamb in a few plays.
Yeah.
And I guess we've talked a bit about them, but we can kind of kick to the other side. The Metabusters are definitely struggling a little bit. Definitely part of it is just like not being able to field the rosters they've wanted to.
Hmm.
I think maybe they fielded their full first roster in the first week, but then in the
Yeah.
second week they did not have Hadiri. Garrett subbed instead. Garrett actually played really pretty well, so I don't think it's like
Yeah, I will say I
a
think
huge
Garrett.
step down. But
Yeah. I don't know. I think maybe if they like adjusted their roster a little bit, maybe run back like the Hidiri. Can they play Garrett instead over Jacob? Because I
yeah,
feel like Garrett might be able to like shore up some of the weaknesses bot side that they've had so far. I will say Silico is like 1v9ing on these random ass picks for like the most part. It's like kind of silly.
yeah, the
Like
Ezreal
my
top,
man busted
GP
out the
mid.
Ezreal top and just
The
like
Twitch
dunking
support
on
was
kids.
pretty good too, week one.
Yeah. I will say Twitch support has been an interesting crop up in this season. I think Andromeda are using it as well, but like
Okay, yeah,
that's like a different
yeah, we
conversation.
can talk about that later. That series was crazy. The Twitch probably was kind of nuts. I do think the
Yeah.
Ezreal top was like so disgusting. I can
Yeah,
kind of
that
speak
that
on
was the
that.
most meta busting they
Yeah,
did. I
I mean,
think
I think that's the most successful meta busting they did. Um,
yeah. I think the
like,
Leona jungle actually
er,
was not bad the way no one played
yeah.
it. But
No, he definitely played pretty well too. But the Ezreal top was like absolutely
yeah.
disgusting. I know I'd heard some talks that it could have possibly been intended to be Ezreal mid, which I do
Yeah,
think
I
would have
saw
been
that as well.
a lot better because he wasn't able to necessarily affect the map too much in the early game, which
Mhm.
allowed me and Eric to get quite fed and then kind of snowball the
Yeah.
game from that point.
Mhm.
But it was definitely really tough playing into them. The kind of like force support team comp you had going on there, because like Jin, honestly, in most games, and especially that game, was basically just a support. He wasn't offering too much utility there.
Yep.
So they had what Morgana, Lux, Jin, full tank, Thresh. Like this is all just set up to get the Ezreal fed.
Yeah.
Luckily, we kind of figured that they were going to do something like that, and we were able to pick
Uh,
up the Malzahar to kind of deal with it.
yeah.
Then we made some adaptations in the second draft, knowing that okay, they're just going to throw a bunch of resources to let Silico perform. And we were able to shut it down. I think more effectively in the second game. I think we kind of trolled a little bit. It didn't end super quickly, so it got riskier than it should have. But
I
I
did
don't know.
watch that game. That game was a little silly. Y'all threw for content a little bit a couple times. I'm not gonna lie. I was watching the
Yeah.
stream. I was like, someone's PayPal needs to be checked after this game. Like, there's no way you guys play like that.
I mean,
But
I think that's just one of those games where you get too far ahead and you're just like having a little fun with it because you're like, there's no possible way we can lose. But unfortunately, you did kind of forget that Silico is on GP and like maybe that
yeah, yeah.
matters. I do think Kaisa scaled a lot better than Callista did, so I think that was a good draft adaptation by us. I think maybe the build that I was building on Kaisa was meta
A little
busting.
sus.
It's
Yeah.
definitely okay. I will say, as soon as I started building my second item, I goes, guys, I'm meta busting, and I just
Wait,
started
that's
doing
base.
whatever. Like,
Wait, you didn't say that in all chat? That's fucked up, bro.
no,
Damn, I would have gone
well,
for that.
I was like 6-0. I'm not gonna type that shit.
What? Why not? That's content.
Okay, this is how I get 1 week for my own server, bro.
That's crazy, bro. You deserve. Wait, no, no, no. You shouldn't get fucking 1 week for that, bro. That's just based. That's just funny. Like,
Okay. Okay. Anyway, um, I was like, I bought the pickaxe to get the Q evolved, then swapped at Nashor's, then built the Borg,
guys, I'm meta
Rage Blade.
busting. I'm weak.
Well, I think I might have built the Rage Blade last. I don't know, but I was like, I guess the Meta Busters. I'm kind of smurfing this game. I gotta do something funky. I actually I messaged Ali after that game, sent my build. I was like, "Is this troll?" He's like, "I don't know the meta anymore, man."
That's based.
I don't know. Teddy was like, "It's a fun build." so,
That's fair. That's fair.
so who knows? But yeah, no, that game was pretty fun. I think Kaiser can also deal with GP pretty well. I think that play that a lot of people shouted out towards the end, where he tries to drop the barrel combo on me, so I just ult on his ass. That worked out pretty well. And
Mhm.
also, like, having the GP pick was actually really good into Malzahar though, because the
Yeah,
orange
you just
cleanse.
press W and
Yep.
then just see you later, Malzahar. You
Right.
tried, buddy.
And then, I mean, honestly, like the flex potential of their draft is pretty interesting. You
Yeah.
have 5 champions, and you think, oh, it's probably going to be Leona, Sivir bot lane, Lissandra mid, GP top, with Trundle in the jungle, and then they completely subvert your expectations. I think some of this was not pre-planned during drafts, because as we loaded into lobby, they were like just shuffling all around, and we're like, "Are you guys good?" And they're like, "We don't know."
I think it
So,
was funny though. I think it
yeah,
almost worked out for them in the second game, to be fair. But
yeah.
like,
I mean, I
it
think
is what it
some
is.
of it was just people were not necessarily on comfort. I think the Leona was always intended to be in the jungle, but I
Yeah.
do think the Lissandra support wasn't necessarily what they had going into it.
Mm.
We also thought that it might be Silico on Lissandra, which didn't make any sense. So I am glad that Garrett got to play the pick, because we were banning it in the first game
Yeah.
because we were scared of Garrett playing it. We knew that we'd have to
That's
play through me a lot, and having a Lissandra ult me would not be fun.
yeah.
But you just take cleanse, and then it's not a huge deal.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I definitely like all the the meta busting that they're doing. The flexibility is really interesting, and you never know what you're gonna get when you're playing into them, which is
Yeah.
pretty interesting. And I do think the Ezreal top was a huge step in the right direction. I just think if they had a bit more like cohesive late game, they could have finished that off, because we were definitely playing on the back foot
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
lot.
I would agree. I would agree.
Unfortunately, us playing in the back foot could also say that we were in a martial poise.
I hate that. I hate that.
That was
But
terrible.
I will say, I think it's really funny that one of their picks did actually transition into a different game, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to use this as a cool segue. The Karthus support did make it into like the Andromeda uh versus Vax Valor and Pirates series, and it was actually super impactful. If you watch that game back, uh,
Sorry, I'm
nice double
changing.
W by the way. Nice
Walk.
spelling by the way.
Walk of sup.
But like the way Aya and Will were they punished the flex that Andromeda had set up. Like if you watch the draft back, Andromeda was like I think they used the Alana Adam flex into support set up really well in game one. Like sending the Mordekaiser top. Heroic didn't really pick a good champion into like the
Okay,
Mordekaiser,
he
like to
blind
punish.
picked Kled. Like, what the fuck
No,
are you doing?
that's so base. That's so
Okay,
base.
I agree that it's based, but from like a strategic perspective,
Doesn't
you
doesn't
pick.
Cledge shit on Mordekaiser?
I mean, but you're blinding it. Like, you don't know for sure, and like, there's other champions still on the table, though. Like,
Yeah, I will agree. It looked worse than his Darius, so I think that's why it didn't matter. But I think
yeah.
the way Andromeda decided to let Alana take the weak side and then go for like the
Okay,
Twitch support setup was
it has like
really
a
good. So
slightly good matchup into Mordekaiser. I think if you're blinding to be
yeah,
like fuck Mordekaiser, you can literally blind Darius. There's no issues with that.
yeah, I would agree. I would
It might
agree,
have been
and that's what.
banned, but
Yeah,
Olaf is one I would do. Irelia is
yeah,
good. Kale,
yeah.
Riven, Cho'Gath, GP set.
There's so
Like,
many options. Yeah. No, I agree. I just think it's funny to ego the Kled, but it's like, I think in game one, Cam did like a lot of heavy lifting for his team with Zach. I think their mid jungle synergy is not to be underestimated. I am curious to see like if Cam can like flesh out the jungle pool that he has because clearly he started getting targeted in draft like game 2 and 3, and it kind of showed in like the gameplay. Like Andromeda couldn't adjust fast enough to like their setups being banned out. So I'm curious to see what shakes out for them like, in the next series. The Karthus support, I think it was really good at punishing like the Zillion Nami bot lane that they
that
had. It's
sounds right.
like this is like two squishy champions. Karthus can like output a lot of damage, and Will actually played like decently in both games, like in
Okay,
lane.
Will
After.
salvaging his Jinx win rate. I don't know if anyone.
Yeah, the win rate is salvage. Let's go.
I
I was
actually
super hyped
don't
for
know if
that.
anyone's logged the games. Oh shit, they haven't. Okay, I'm gonna do that.
Shame on you,
Oh wait.
but
Well, I wasn't the one. I wasn't in the games.
I
If
was. I'm not
anyone
an admin, so I
listening,
can't log the games. Shake my
if
head, dude.
anyone can send me the screenshots of the post game, that would be fantastic. So I don't have to dig through the Twitch stream.
Okay.
So we'll see. So our meta section might not be super accurate because we're missing some things, but
Yeah.
I will try and pull up the Twitch in the meantime and get this going.
Yeah. And then I think to credit to Mass Valor and Pirates, I think Valor coming in for Steve did level up their pool quite a bit. I think he hasn't played League in a while, so he had the warm up game on the Yone. By the way, his Yone build is like the worst thing I've ever seen on planet Earth. If you are building Yone, you do not build Shield Vote into Mortal Reminder. That is not the build. It hasn't ever been the build. Just please build IE so you do damage. I'm begging you, man. And then he
Wait,
rushed Death Stance
it
third.
has been the build though, no? Like,
I always thought it was IE better, no?
no, people would like rush it early, or what you do. I guess you
I
never
mean,
build it immediately, but you build the Zeal early and then plan on building it into it
yeah,
eventually.
that's what I mean though. You still want your like
Yeah.
IE spike, right? Like, and I don't know. Um, what else is there?
Wait, why does this game
Yeah,
take
but
so long
like,
to end?
I think heroic with the top lane performances has really pulled through for them in the last two games. His Camille was kind of gross. Did really well into Adam's Gragas, I think. I would argue in that draft, I think Andromeda should not have gone for like a weak side top laner. They should have played something more like AD centric and like really looked for like the ego 1v1 and have Cam back him up with like the Wukong. I think this Wukong pick they also, I think Andromeda should have revisited this Wukong pick actually in the second game. I think it did actually have the impact that you wanted it to have. It's just like, I think your draft just wasn't set up to do that. It's like,
Wait, when was the Wukong?
game two.
Oh, okay. You hadn't like come
No, they
back
should have
to
run
it.
it back game three.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
they should have
Yeah,
run
I
it
was
back in game
confused. I'm like, as I'm looking at game one right now, and I'm not seeing a Wukong.
game three, they went to the Vi, and the Vi was like negative impact.
Yeah, I remember
don't
that not
doubt.
feeling super well.
I don't. I don't think Cam is bad on the Vi. I also think Vi is not that fucking hard, but it's like Wukong is like a comfort pick for Cam. It like has the CC, the setup for the team. So I think that could have actually worked out if you adapted your draft a little bit better. Tried to get like a more AD into your comp. I think it could have worked out for you guys. But
Yep, hard agree. I do think, as we've mentioned before, that the Twitch prio in the series was probably the most exciting.
yeah, I would
Because
agree.
Andromeda
The AP
chose
Twitch.
to not actually ban it on blue side. They
Uh-huh.
instead just first pick Twitch both games.
Yeah.
Obviously, when Will's in the game, it does kind of warp the meta a little bit because he's a bit of a Twitch
Okay.
one trick.
Yeah.
So he did see some of that, but Adam actually just grabbed blind AP Twitch support first, both games.
And it worked for them both games. Yeah.
Yeah, it did really well. I would have assumed that we would have seen like more of a planned out counter to it in the second game, but they managed to just kind of work it out throughout the
Yeah.
game. It got super fed, got really far ahead. It just ultimately wasn't able to close out the game because they
You
played
mean
their
the third
macro.
game?
Yeah, what did I say?
You said the second game. It's like
The second game of Twitch support.
yeah. I think the game could. I think the Twitch support could have worked. It's just the way you drafted, you had like AP mid laner, like AP top laner, and then like Twitch AP, and then you had like a no AD damage Ash build, and it's like this draft is just like kind of doomed. I think Alana choosing to play like the tank Mordekaiser as their champion is really good for their team. I understand there's like champion pool issues, like they don't really play much top lane, but I think picking up another pick to play like more weak side stuff would have been really good for them. But that can be fixed later on IMO. I am curious to see how this team evolves. I will say Mass Valor and Pirates, I want to see more of like the eye on unconventional supports like the Karthus. I think that was like really good for them. And then like in game three, they picked the Swain. It didn't have as much impact, but I think the style is like fine for them. Jackson is showing a lot more of the low econ style, and I think it's worked for them. The Sejuani Prio in game 2 and 3 actually clutched them out like a decent amount. Like you had like the hard CC setups when it wasn't there in the bot lane. Paired really well with Valor and Heroic to try to get them leads and stuff. So I think like revisiting stuff like this could like help them out a lot as a team. So
Yeah, I mean, I think
or
another
like
big
finding
thing
more
was like in the
like
first
that. Yeah.
game, I think you have what, like Kled and Karma as the two
Yeah.
champions that
Yeah.
Heroic and Io were on. These
Mhm.
players are definitely like the strong focal point of this team. So
Yeah.
it's definitely important to have them to be in a position where they can actually carry.
Yeah.
So as
Agreed.
soon as I saw in draft that we see Karthus and Camille, Camille especially. I
Yeah,
just know
heroics
that you're
Camille is
right.
kind
There's
of
just
gross.
so
Yeah.
much potential there for them to actually carry. Whereas Kled is like his early game's really good. You're able to snowball lanes pretty well on it, but he doesn't really have like the late game carry potential. Like the most he really adds in terms of impact to team fights is he can ult, and then your whole team runs really quickly,
Yeah.
which is nice, but it's not
I
really
think
what
it
you are looking
synergizes
for
if
in a
your
carry.
jungler. It's like it synergizes better if your jungler is like looking to play like a more bruiser style. Like if you have like a double bruiser setup, I think Kled is fantastic. He can play like the primary frontline ish, and then you have like a bruiser follow up, and that shit's kind of gas. But like other than that, I think they need to I think they should try to like find more picks inside this tank jungle, bruiser top kind of setup. I think Valor stepping in for like a much harder carry style than what Steve was able to offer. I think that was really good for their team as well. So
Yeah, is this the first Cassin that we've seen so far?
who played Cassid? Oh, Zach. Okay, I wanted to talk about this. I forgot about this shit. Zach got a Rod of Ages at 20 minutes. Like, my brother in Christ, what are you
Oh
doing,
Lord,
man? Like, this champion's OP, and you're out here building Roa at 20 minutes.
did he
But yes,
did he
it
buy
is the
the
first time
Frozen
we see
Heart
Cassid.
first?
Yeah, I think that's fine. But if you're going to do
Oh,
that, I think
just
you
don't
can
get
go for like
Roa,
a
right?
yeah, you can go for
Yeah,
like Everfrost, maybe
Crown.
Riftmaker.
People like
I
Crown
don't
on
know.
Cassidon.
Crown, yeah, I think Crown's decent as well. It's like it's 20 minutes into the game. You cannot afford to delay your power spike
Yeah,
any
that's
longer. I
crazy.
think that also like kind of fucked them in the game as well. Like I don't know.
Yeah, that one I
There's
actually
like a
didn't get
lot
to
of
watch super closely, so I don't know like
yeah.
for sure. But
There's like a lot of things you could talk about in this series. It was like a very tight series. I think it was the best series so far this season as well. So
yep. What side was on what? Okay,
all right.
we have a bit of a missing game border. Unfortunate, TM. Hold
Yeah.
on. I am just like getting the rest of this game entered in real quick.
Yeah, that's fine. I guess I can talk about Spectres since you did like the Rift Strike segment. I think Hog had definitely a weaker performance than what we expected from them. Like, a little bit of wash TM is the joke, but like, I think
Damn, not the Hong Baba slander on my podcast.
absolutely I'm number one Hong Baba hater, but it's like,
You're like
I
number
think
one
there's
everyone hater. That's not
no,
like
I'm
that doesn't
not.
mean
No, I'm not,
anything.
bro. I've
Okay,
literally been sitting here gassing up New York Nutbusters because they're new to the server and they played well. Like, come on, man.
okay.
You can't call me number one hater
But
here,
you're
bro.
number one hater of like more things than most people.
Yeah, it creates content, bro. There's no content if there's no conflict, bro. Come on, man. But it's like
True.
I think there's still like a lot of potential for like flexes in their like team play. Like uh I think there's some like unexplored options that they haven't pulled out yet. And Rex not playing for their team when he's been spamming solo queue a lot is kind of worse because I think he's a little more informed than Hong, plays the game a bit more. So it's just sort of like more hot than Hong on League of Legends.
You're saying
So
Rex is more attractive than our boy Teddy?
uh well one was a Korean model, so I don't know. Well, anyways, I think the drafts were like pretty interesting as well. The way New York Nutbusters set up their jungler in like both games was like really good.
Yeah.
If you watch the game back, PV invading with Mike on the bot side was like super clean. Knowing you have the ball in prio, recognizing that kind of stuff was super good from them. And I think Spectres just had a rough time adjusting. I think game two was like a lot closer with the Anne switching to mid lane. I think they did match Taxi pretty well. I think Savaris playing jungle on the Graves. It was just like a little rough because I think they just got like out macroed in that series or in that
Yeah, I
game.
mean,
Like,
I think even in post game interview when I was talking to Alex, he was saying
mhm,
that like despite the fact that the like scoreboard seemed closer in the second game,
yeah,
it actually felt a lot better to play out the second game. Just because in the first game, you know, the Spectres have like Sivir, Silas, Ornn. Like there is always
yeah,
that threat that they could come back into the game. Whereas
mhm,
in the second game, you have Hong, who is likely going to be the main carry on that team on the
playing
Ash,
half. Yeah,
which he started off doing really well. It was a really good adaptation. You sacrifice the Sivir just to have some sort of threat in the early game. He did
Yeah.
drop 8 kills that game compared to the 1 kill in the previous game, which
Yeah.
did seem a lot better earlier. But I think the comms on the Nutbusters, they just weren't as worried about the second game, even though like the scoreline looks closer.
Yeah.
Also, Taxi in that game was fucking disgusting. Like the Zoe bubbles, I think I was talking with, I think I casted that game with Cam, but he's literally just like, he has aimbot. Like this man did not miss. Like he hit like
Okay.
so many
Okay.
bubbles and Qs. It was just kind of ridiculous. I mean, you do have a
Yeah.
very late game comp still because your top side is Jax, Rise, and Graves. But I
Yeah.
honestly don't think there was a single team fight where more than one
Yeah.
of
I
those
think that
champions
was like
positioned
the.
well at all. So
Yeah.
it did kind of feel just really strong from the Nutbusters. And also, if you have
Yeah.
like a Viego who's fed going into late game, like even if your comp's really good late, it doesn't matter because if he's able to consistently get at least one reset in a fight, he now has that fed champion attacking
Yeah.
you. So it
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily help you out too much, but I don't know.
Makes
It
sense.
felt like the first game they were set up to succeed better. It was just like there was a lot of mixed execution, which kind of hurt
Yeah. I
them.
think both games were both like
Yeah,
a little bit of miss execution, but it's like we'll have to see how that continues. I think. I don't know.
agreed. I don't know.
Yeah.
Nutbusters look really strong. Sad we don't get to see
Yeah.
another game from them this week, but
Yeah.
is what it
Cowards.
is.
Yeah.
So true. Having IRL touching grass
Yeah.
obligations,
That's
super
cringe. That's
cringe.
cringe.
But yeah,
Unbased of them.
I mean, I will also speak on the Rift Sharks MetaBusters game again. I think we looked fucking terrible in the first week. Like I'm not gonna pull back any punches. Like it
Hmm.
was just gross. Like we played really poorly. I think kind of like me and Eric reuniting the bot lane was a huge change there. And I think
Yeah, Eric
it
carried your dumbass in game one. I know. Don't worry. We
so
were
true.
sitting there pogging out about all of his blitzcrank hooks. Don't worry, bro. We recognize my goat. Oh God.
The Dragon
Anyways,
Steel 3 HP by the way. I went back and watched the
that's
VOD.
so based.
That shit is disgusting. We
Yeah,
literally,
like
I was, because he was sitting there. He's like, I don't know if I can contest it. I'm like, just hook it, bro. Just do it.
that's so
I'm like,
based.
I know you can do this. He fucking steals it.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was absurd. I think like Joel and Jonah like just couldn't even believe that it happened. They're just like, did you get it? like what? Like there's no shot I'm seeing this correctly, but
Yeah, I would think I
um,
was casting with Mike in that game, and it was like we were just like, "Damn, Eric just has the scripts on, bro. Like, turn the aimbot off. American Sniper over here. Like, it was a crazy series
yeah. I mean, I
for
do
sure."
think like the big impact for us was like having me be able to actually like shot call helps a
And
lot.
play
I think.
ADC, yeah, I'd
Well,
agree.
because in jungle, I'm too worried on like my jungle macro, right? It's like I can
Yeah,
shot call, but like realistically, like if I'm just getting outplayed by Cam, there's only so much I can say. Like, hey, I'm
yeah.
gonna try and gank this lane because I think it'll go well at this point, and then it just doesn't work.
Hmm.
Whereas on ADC, I kind of know my limits better.
Okay,
And obviously,
yeah,
in the second game in the first week, I wasn't even on the team, so I can't come
yeah,
with them during game. So that was pretty rough. But again, huge shout out to Silico. He played really well that series. He
yeah.
may have outdamaged me in both games. I'm not
I
sure
think he
though.
did.
The
I
Callista
think he
one, I
did.
remember being really well. I think they were both close.
Yeah, I think it was close. I don't remember.
Someone dealt 70,000 damage in the first game. It was either
Yeah, I
me or
remember
him. I
that.
don't know. I mean, both of us had 20 kills that game. I had
Yeah,
23, he
it was
had
just a
20,
nuts
but
series.
yeah. I don't know. That first game was crazy. I like have not been challenged in a team fight that much recently. It's
Yeah.
something that I actually cared about. Our warm up games were like insane. I had a Varus game that went to like 50 minutes and they had a Zeri on their team, so we just lose. Like
Yeah.
that champion is super strong right now, I think. But yeah, obviously the Valorant Pirates and Andromeda were both two teams who I think not no one, but the results that happened in the first week were not necessarily what you would have predicted. I think both of us put Rift Sharks over Andromeda. So to see that upset in the first week
No, wait,
was
I put.
interesting.
Hold on. Did I put Andromeda over them? I think I
I don't know
did,
if you
didn't I?
predicted that result, but in your power rankings you did.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then you can say the same thing. I think both of us had put, or actually, I don't think I put Spectres over MVP, but I think I predicted that they were going to win the game. Whatever.
Yeah.
Either way, I think we were both kind of surprised at the results of those
Yeah,
first
this is
games.
I think
So
a pretty surprising week. So
yeah. So having it kind of go back to what we thought it was going to be, where the Valorant Pirates do outperform Andromeda in that game was fun to see.
yeah,
Uh, I feel like the fact that it was our first series that went to three was really fitting, I guess is the word.
Yeah,
But
I think it was. I think it showed like how close these teams are in terms of like skill. Like, I think the draft adaptation from like Valor and Pirates was a lot better in like both games, and it's
mhm,
like I think it just showed like these two teams, the players are like all like almost equivalent in skill, and it's like
definitely.
it just came down to like a game of inches, and I think Mass Valor and Pirates came out on top for that day. So
Yeah. I mean, I
I'm curious for the run back now though, but
yeah. I mean, I just thought it was like Valor and Pirates start off by winning the Frostbite tournament, and then like
the prospect game,
oh 2 in their first week, right? Which is not what you want to
yeah,
see. But them kind of like regaining their footing as the series
a
progressed
bit of an uphill battle, but
yeah,
yeah,
it
I
was
will
pretty cool
say,
to watch. But
yeah,
well, I mean, because definitely they started off like still like I thought they were just gonna get 0-2 twice. I
yeah,
will say Will's jinx get locked in. Like
yeah,
I believe in Will a lot. Big fan of
yeah,
Will
true.
personally, but like the narrative, right?
Yeah,
Like
of course, of course.
Will jinx can surely never succeed. I think I do have the stats pulled up. I will check. Hongova Jinx top 11 and 6, 65% win rate on 17 games. Will Jinx before that series was 2 and 10. So like
It really be like that,
as much as you want to support Will here, right? You see the Jinx locked in and you're like, "Oh no." Like
it's doomed.
surely this is going to be bad. This team has not won a game all season. And then they managed to pull it out. The Karthus
Yeah.
support did a lot. The Camille top also very good. They're able to
Mhm.
pull it out, and then you see the Will Jinx locked in again, and it wins again. So
Let's
I don't
go.
know.
The narrative is going strong with this too.
I mean, he still has a 1.37 KDA on it, so
Shh, shh.
we don't.
Details,
I
details.
don't need to get too hype over it, but
Uh,
I don't know. It was kind of cool to see. I thought that was a very
I
fun
agree.
like narrative game, as well as just like really good content to watch. I think Twitch, like we had Twitch support, Karthus support. Like it was just an enjoyable game to
Yeah,
watch.
to be honest, I think that game did more meta busting than the meta busters have done like this entire season. But it's like that's a different
I
conversation.
mean, I think
I,
okay, if you want to say like meta busting and performing,
yeah,
yes.
meta busting and performing
But
by
like
far.
in terms of
Sorry.
just like weird picks locked in, like meta busters are still
Yeah, yeah,
winning. Like
yeah, for sure, for sure.
we said that asset, or I created a little picture that had all their champs on it. They have played some batshit insane picks. Their top
Yeah.
laners have been Thresh, Ezreal, Trundle, and Aatrox. Aatrox,
That's
okay, sleeper. Their junglers,
fair.
Sion, Morgana, Leona, and Jarvan. Again, a
You know,
sleeper
Noah's
one.
my go for that
But
one. On God.
their mid laners, okay, these are like fine. These are all normal. You have Irelia, Swain, Lux, Gangplank, very
Veg.
standard. Your AD carries Seraphine, strongest ADC in solo queue right now. You have 2 games of Sivir and you have a Jin. All very meta. And then support, you have okay, Thresh, most normal. Twitch, step down. Karthus, another step down. And then Lissandra is like a. Okay, you've done it. I think jungle top lane are the ones to really look at. Support has kind of
Yeah.
stayed like mostly on meta, and then mid and AD carry are just like you're just drafting meta champions at this point. Which honestly, if you have 2 roles that are kind of like at least like visually speaking, inting it in terms of the draft, I think that's like I think you're meta busting there.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But yeah, I don't know. Very very entertaining team to watch. Certainly, you never really
Yeah.
know what you're going to expect. I think their games have been the most fun to watch. I'm hoping for a series that's close. Because I do think that would be really interesting. Like if they're able to like cheese a game out with some like weird shit in like the top lane, that could be really fun. And honestly,
I tend to agree.
like Honen's Thresh, holy
He's kind of
shit, dude,
good.
he's crazy. I did not realize this guy had like 700,000 mastery points on Thresh, and you could tell like
Yeah.
a very skill expressive champion, and he just kind of like he made a very
He
good
performed,
use of
yeah.
his lead. Yeah. All right, let's swap over to meta discussion now that the games are logged in. Struggling to type TM. Okay, and then we kick to this one. Oh my god, it even has the right tab open.
Let's
That was
go.
that was not intentional. I don't take credit for that. Okay, so we'll kick to just season 5 in the team format. Caitlyn is the only champion picked more than 3 times, and she's been picked 5 times, with an
Uh,
80% win rate.
yeah,
6.62 KDA is looking like a bit of a Caitlyn meta here. Um,
yeah,
Alex 3-0 on the pick, Caesarius 1-0 on the pick. Keely did not perform super well. But is what it is. That game was a bit of a disaster on all fronts.
yeah,
Alex and Caesarius have a 12.2 and 19 KDA respectively on this champion. It
yeah,
seems like, and like collectively, they've had like 5 deaths. Like
yeah.
Alex
These are like
9-0,
for sure
12-1.
performing at these five picks. Yeah.
Okay, you ignore Healy. That it's like, okay, it's six deaths across 4 games. It's
Uh,
ludicrous. And
yeah,
as we saw in the Nutbuster series, it's literally if you get the Caitlyn a kill before level 6, she just shuts down the lane. It's
yeah,
nice to see her back where she should be, and now that you can build IE second, it's like you just deal so much damage. It
yeah,
kind of like got rid of the slump that used to be there on Caitlyn, where
yeah,
you get your first item and then you have to hope that you're still super dominant until you get your third item. But now you can
yeah,
just itemize directly into it on your second, and keep that lead alive.
yeah. I will
Yeah.
say I think New York Nutbusters is like really utilizing the Scalen pick well. Just to shout out them in particular. Uh, they're using this Caitlyn pick to like hard shove the lane, get their support prio, like and then just start rotating into the enemy jungler, like into the enemy jungle. Like you see Mike looking for these aggressive invades on like bot side, just trying to steal away camps when you can, and it's like it netted them a win versus Spectres as well. So I think just like using these hard shove lanes from the side of New York Nutbusters have netted them a lot of success in games as
Yeah.
well.
Okay, I realized I did lie. I had the bot lane filter on. So there's another champion that's been picked more than 3 times, and it is Nami,
Uh,
who actually has the inverse. Caitlyn is 4-1, Nami is 1-4 with a 1.74 KDA, which is not what you want to see.
okay.
Kathy has played 3 Nami games, and is somehow performing the best, despite being 1-2. I guess the only person to win on Nami. And then
Yeah.
Alana and Layla have not done super well. I believe the Layla game was with Healy Caitlyn, and again, that game was just kind of bedge overall. Poor performance
Yeah.
by us. And then the Alana game was obviously versus the Kartha support, as we've been talking about. And that
Yeah.
one did not go super well for that team either. So I guess it kind of makes sense.
I will say we don't have our goat Jacob goat Nami player here playing the Nami, so I think this is not too surprising that the pick has dropped a little bit in the win rate. On God.
It's so bedge though. This is like our most played champion, or it's not though, because Seraphine. If you look at overall in the team format and in both, and in actually Silas beats Seraphine in signups, which whatever, but
That's based. Wait, hold on. Pull up the Silas winner real quick. Look at who's played it. Look at who's played it.
just in signups or overall.
No, just overall.
Okay, I gotta scroll down a little bit. 68 games, 57% win rate, and most prevalent Silas player 1.54 KD, 47% win rate. Blake 3 KDA, much better. 44% win rate though on 9 games. You
Uh-huh.
are 5-2 on the Silas with a 5.35 KD. This is why you wanted me to open the stats, obviously.
Yes, of course, of
Um,
course.
Valor
I
also 5-2, a bit of a worse KDA, but kind of what you'd expect from a solo laner.
Yep.
Jonah's 2-2, Sarvis is 2-2, Stanley's 2-2, Cam is 0-2. Surprising.
Mhm.
I'm 2-0 on the Silas, despite me
Let's
not
go.
remembering having played any Silas games. My boy Drago also 2-0. I believe that was just finals, and then everyone else has only played 1 game. What the fuck were
Yeah.
my Silas games? I picked it into Ada. I do not remember this game at all. I remember the TSA game because I had to
Oh
like.
wait, I was playing Nasus Jungle. Oh, never mind. That one doesn't count.
I deadass do not remember this series at all.
Uh, but there is like an actual reason I did want to bring up the Silas champion. I think that's like there's a lot of potential for this champion. I think I've been gassing this champion for like 3 weeks now. I think like a flex potential between mid and jungle for Silas is like super strong. It got the champion nerfed in pro play as well, so I'd like to see teams start utilizing this more. We see like a lot more like team fight centric ultimates, uh, such as like the Lysandra Maokai is like pretty. I think Maokai's been picked a couple times
Yeah,
from
Maokai's
like
a good one.
best. There's just like a
I
lot of good ultimates to steal right
Yeah,
now,
I
and I
was
think
hoping to
utilizing that
see
is
for a
better.
Blake pick up Silas into the Ornn top lane in that Nutbusters game. He did go for the Alawi, which he solo carried the game on, but I think he could have done the same thing with Silas. I do think it's a really
Yeah,
good Ornn counter in the
yeah,
top lane because the Ornn ulti is huge and Ornn literally can't do anything to you. He can full trade you and then he just press W and he'll back up.
yeah,
Starverse is the actual only player to play Silas in our team format so far.
yeah,
He went 4-3-1 in the Spectre's loss. By far the best performer on his team in that game.
yeah,
And when they beat the Valorant Pirates, I believe Steve picked Syndra as a counter pick into Silas and went 0-8-0, and Starverse absolutely thrashed him, going
yeah. Pairing really
8-0-7.
well with Rex as well. So
Yeah, so Starverse performing on the Silas. I think overall in this season, we do have 24 Silas games with like a 67% win rate, so it's
mhm.
faring quite well. You've played 5
Yeah.
games of it, and then Valor's 4-0 on Silas this season. It's not surprising to see it get double banned, or I think it was
Well,
just
I've had some
full
wild
banned
ass
out
builds in those games
all
though.
three
Yeah, it's
games.
always Van
Yeah,
versus him. I don't blame him though. The champion's
yeah.
really good. You should see my builds in those Silas games, by the way. They were really funny.
Yes,
But that's a
unfortunately,
different
we do
conversation.
not have that saved in here. That would be a
Yeah.
fucking nightmare.
Chore and a half. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
But it's like a very funny thing.
Yep.
What other champions have been really popular in picks so far?
Yep. Okay, so Caitlyn Nami, Darius is still pretty high from last week. Kais has
Yep.
actually risen up a little bit. Both me and Will picked that up this week. Leona became more prevalent because PB picked it up a bit. But
Yep.
think 2 of these Mordekaiser games are this week as well.
Hmm.
Sivir has
Alana played it.
not been faring very well.
Yep.
2 different players have picked it up, but it is 1.22 KD. Not you want to see.
Yeah. I think
Lux is interesting, I think, as well. I
I
think
think that's more of like a Caitlyn pairing. Like you only pick it with like the Caitlyn and whatnot, right? So
uh no, I don't think that's
or is
actually
it
what happened
was it mid?
because well,
Oh,
one
there's one
one
that
of our
was
games
mid,
was
right?
Aya played at support with a Kaisa.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it wasn't Karma the first game, it was Lux. I don't know why I said that earlier. So the Lux into Karthus shift isn't as big, I don't think, but
Yeah.
it's still nice to see. Garrett played it mid to kind of support the Ezreal, and then
Uh-huh.
Kate Lux was picked in the first week. But
Yeah, I think that's like the difference though, right? Like not pairing it with the Caitlyn, trying to like a more aggressive laner, I think pairs really well with like the Lux because you hit the binding, you can hit the traps, you can literally just full combo them to death from CC. I think that's like the reason why like the Lux is kind of falling off in terms of win rate. I also think like inversely, I think the Galio is getting a little bit carried by like the way that it's been picked. Like if you go to the Galio game, it's literally just Zach pairing up with the Hecarim and just running through the entire map perma. Like you look
yeah,
at the
both of these
Galio
games you have
KD.
Galio Hecarim. We did have a Galio Zac here, which did not do
Yeah,
as well. So
that's like the problem though. It's like you don't have enough damage if you're picking like a Galio Zac combo. But like if you pair it with the Hecarim, you just sit there and repeat dive bot lane 4 times in a row and just kill them off cooldown. It's really balanced, I promise. But it's like I think that's like part of what's carrying Galio in terms of like this current meta. It's the same thing with like Echo. Like I think Echo is like only getting carried because of like certain people playing it. I'll just say Cam right
oh
now.
yeah, I
You know
mean,
what I
a
mean?
lot of these champions are only sitting on 1 games. The champions who
Yeah.
are faring the best in terms of KD on multiple games are the Hecarim, which, for the same reason as the Galio we just looked at, is doing pretty well. That pairing specifically has done pretty well. Alawi is 10 KD on 2 games.
This is
Um,
Blake
it's
on the
Alana
Alawi though.
and Blake both did really
Uh,
well though.
I
So I
forgot
think
about Alana playing it.
yeah,
Yeah,
no, she
Alana
played
played it
it.
really well.
Yeah, absolutely bodied Michael in the top lane too, which is
Yeah,
in a matchup
fairly good
where
support.
it was supposedly favored for Michael too,
Yeah.
which is pretty interesting. Some of the other champions who have multiple games, Silas has done quite well despite having a loss there. Obviously,
Yep.
Caitlyn's up there. Sejuani, I believe, was
Uh,
just Jackson
yeah,
twice this weekend.
yeah.
He did
I
pretty
voiced
well.
my approval of that one when he
Yep.
played it. Yeah, that was really good adaptation from him.
Ezreal also faring pretty well. It
Uh,
looks like it's a
I wonder why,
combination of
bro.
just well, we had Caesarius absolutely smurf on it, and Silica played quite well as well. The
Yeah,
Caesarius game has a bit more impact, in my opinion, but um,
yeah,
a lot of these champions are just champions with a lot of range, or who are just picked into a composition where they fit super well across a
Yeah.
couple of games.
I think composition is mattering like a lot more this season than like the individual picks. I think there are like some outliers like the Echo that aren't making it through draft as much because people have kind of figured it out. And it's like these picks are like more so they're like more like comp dependent, right? Like I think our drafting skill has actually quite improved this season. Like I think teams are drafting super well for the
Well,
most
for
part.
some teams,
For most teams, I
five out
will
of
say.
six maybe.
Yeah, 5 out of 6. But one team, their entire brand is not drafting correctly. So like, can we
True.
really count them as that? But it's
Yeah.
like I think less of these like outlier like one trick champions are getting through, and so like people are having to learn how to like draft comps that like can facilitate each other. And I think that's really good for like the league in general. It's
Yeah. I mean,
like what I've been hyping up Andromedas for, like the Hacker and Galio setups. I think that's like super good for them. I
see, you
think
say less one trick champions have gotten through, but I see two Stanley Victor games out of 5 games. So,
I mean, and he didn't even win both of them, right? Like he
yeah, I
had the
mean,
tools to set up, and it's
yeah,
like he still couldn't carry one of the games. It's like like composition is mattering a lot more than like just individual one trick performances, right?
yeah. And I mean, I think that's also something that I do want to discuss that I didn't actually put down in our notes. So I'll just swap over
Yeah,
to it real quick.
because like I don't think Mike has gotten a single game of Rengar, and it's like he's still performing on these picks like the Nocturne, the Kindred, and like other stuff like that. So I think it's like it's really showing that like people are like a lot more invested in like learning the season and like learning how to play as like a team. So
Yep. And I do think a lot of that is kind of contributed to the fact that we are playing with 6 stronger rosters across the board than
yeah,
we did last season. Just
yeah,
because of how the team formation was done. Each team is feeling significantly stronger, which I
uh-huh.
think is leading to a lot of faster games that look a lot more one sided. Because I
Yeah,
know throughout the season, last season, we had a lot of games where it was kind of like wishy washy, flip floppy, like who knew how each game was going to go. Some teams could start out with a lead, and then there were a lot of like crazy comebacks in games that just went on for way too long,
yeah.
and they just weren't closing out. This has not happened like at all. There have been a couple
Like
games that were like genuinely close where both teams were doing well, or
yeah,
where it's like kind of what you saw in like the second Rift Sharks game this weekend where we got really far ahead and then like trolled a little bit, but it was like it's
yeah.
not we don't know how to close out the game. It's we're
So you claim, yeah.
having a little fun, TM.
True.
But I feel like we've just had. I don't have the statistics or anything to prove this, but it feels like a lot of these games are a lot faster and a lot stompier when the leads are present, which I
Hmm.
think is just attributed a lot to just stronger teams overall.
Yeah.
I think the teams that have the least change are literally, or I think it might just be the Rift Sharks.
Hmm.
But I do think we were just able to level up a lot throughout the season. Even though we are swapping the duo of you and Drago out for
Yeah.
Healy and Jonah, I guess would be the roster
Uh,
that most recently played,
yeah.
which I think is a little bit of a downgrade just because you kind of smurf on everyone in the jungle. But
True.
I do think that just like a lot of the like comms and strategy and stuff we've retained from the previous season,
Hmm.
and having other teams kind of match that level of skill at the game is very exciting. And I
Yeah.
think these matches have just been a lot more like even if they're not like as nail bitey or close, I think they're just like a lot more interesting to look at from the outside point
Yeah.
of view
From like
because they're just being played better than we've necessarily seen
yeah.
before, which I think is really interesting.
I think yeah, I think the way that teams are like building their compositions around like certain players is like super good as well. Like you see New York Nutbusters really playing for like their jungle, which is like super interesting for a team to like advocate for. And then you have like other teams like I think Andromeda is also like doing like a more play for your jungle kind of style, and we see like a lot. TLDR guys, I'm trying to advocate for you guys to play for your jungler. This shit's OP. Anyways, different conversation aside, I think like you saw Metabusters trying to really play for Silico in like the top lane or like in any role that he set up in, and it's like paying off dividends, right? Like you're more so like building compositions for your best player rather than are like trying to build solid compositions and like have a player pop off kind of thing, and I think it's
Mhm.
super cool to see.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing that also is kind of happening is there are fewer like just glaring weak points on teams.
Yeah,
Kind of a mix of, or actually, I don't even think it's a mix of anything. I just think the stronger teams overall are like able to cover the weaknesses more. Whereas if you had like on average weaker players, you wouldn't necessarily know how to play your macro to properly cover for weaknesses. Like
yeah,
um, Alana's a really good example of this. Like she's played with a huge CS deficit in a lot of her games.
hmm
But the way that her team drafts for her sets her up really well in these picks that have high influence on team fights and allow her to still have
yeah,
skill expression even though she is at a potential gold deficit,
mhm.
which I think is huge. That's not something that we necessarily saw
A whole
Mimos.
lot last season.
Right, like I
Yeah,
think something similar is happening on Mimos Kittens, and they just weren't able to necessarily draft around it as well, which is kind
yeah,
of how we saw them just get blown out of playoffs. We
yeah,
could see draft just adapt as the season goes, so it could just be that the meta is not solved yet, so people don't know how to punish it.
yeah,
But I do think my initial reaction is just that, hey, we have a weaker player, but we know how to play around them, which I
yeah,
think is really cool because it gives everyone in the server like a chance to shine. Like I think, again, Will is regarded as one of the weaker players, but we saw him have really good performances this weekend.
mhm.
Just because I think his team knows how to play around him. And I also think like having the Frostbite tournament ahead of time does give you the chance to work with like the synergies of the players and
Yeah,
kind of know like what the strengths and weaknesses of each of the players are,
yeah,
instead of just, you know, just doing whatever and hoping it works out, which I did cause some teams to crash and burn previously. And I don't think we have any teams this season that look lost, I guess.
yeah.
And you definitely had a few of those. And
I think a lot of the
each of the
teams,
previous seasons. So
yeah, I think a lot of the teams just like have more synergy. Like the players are like, they're like bonding, like they're playing the game together. They're like regularly, just like more willing to try things out and experiment. Like we saw Blake import his 4 players, and then just like they have all been like super great personalities and like had a great time in the server. So I think, we just have cultivated like a better culture for like playing League of Legends, I think. So it's been a lot of
true.
fun so far. So excited to see how the rest of the season shakes out. So
Yeah. I mean, I just think like not having any teams getting blown out is super cool.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
I mean, well, kind of. I think we have to wait a little bit to see what like kind of the overarching narratives throughout the
Yeah,
season are going to be. I think something to look out for that I think personally is going to be kind of funny is, I believe Spectres are 4-0 against the Valorant Pirates. So
uh huh.
their
That's true.
rematch at the beginning of the second half is going to be pretty interesting. Are they able to take a
Yeah,
single game off of Spectres? We'll have yet to see. Because
yeah,
honestly, like this week, the Valorant Pirates looked a lot better. They were able to take down
yeah.
Andromeda, who was 1-0 on the previous week, and
And
Spectres just kind
then
of collapsed against the Nutbusters.
yeah,
So,
yeah. I'm curious to see how
yeah,
Nutbuster shakes up as well. Like we all had them like kind of low in our power rankings, but they're showing us that they have the tools to adapt and play better than the enemy team. So I'm curious to see what if they can continue their upwards trajectory, or if they're like if this is the peak kind of thing, right? Like these players have played together for so long, but like sometimes you can only improve so much before like you hit like your peak
true.
as
That
like
makes sense.
players.
Yeah,
So
I
it's like we'll
think
have to see if they can continue to like improve, get like the correct meta read, because I think they've also had like a really solid meta read in all of these games. Like they know their strengths and weaknesses as a player. Like uh this more snowballing jungle meta has like favored Mike a lot, and they're like really leaning into it, right? Like you see them drafting like high prio lanes. Taxi is playing like more of like a roaming mid playstyle. We saw him play like the TF, Lissandra. He's really like
Zoe.
trying to get, yeah, like looking to play with his jungler. This shit's like super good. So
Yeah. I do think a lot of why they're doing so well early is just built in synergy. Like they don't have to
yeah,
work through any of the working pains that they're, or the growing pains, I guess is what I meant to say, that they're
yeah,
going through. Like we saw Spectres this week. They were trying out some lane swaps. They didn't necessarily know it was working for them. I
yeah,
know in week one, the Rift Sharks completely swapped their roster from game to game. And like
yeah,
stuff like this is just kind of getting you off your feet. So
yeah,
and I also think like the players on Nutbusters might not have had like the greatest individual showings
Mhm.
during some of the signups. I think some of their players did a lot better than others. So I think it was just kind of hard to know what they would be like altogether, especially because we didn't get to see them perform as a group in Frostbite because they were down PB the entire tournament and they were missing Blake for a few of their games as well. So getting to see how that team works as a whole is really interesting.
Mhm.
I do
Yeah.
wonder if they'll be able to keep up this momentum
Yeah.
going into some other teams, especially some that have been looking pretty good. They haven't played the Valorant Pirates yet. They haven't played Andromeda, and they haven't played the Rift Sharks, which I don't know. I think we looked really good in the week where we actually had our roster figured out, and we weren't like
Uh,
cooking up some
yeah.
chemistry like live on
Don't
broadcast.
let them in the kitchen. Stop cooking, bro. Stop cooking.
Okay, but when we cook, you get like insane kill 80 carry performances. Smile.
Nah, nah.
You get 3.5 attack speed Kaisa. Do you not want
That's
more of
crazy.
that?
Maybe.
I don't know. Okay,
All right.
also let my team message to Rift Shark. Please let me play Zeri. Champion is good. I don't know why you say don't play Zeri.
I mean,
This is not like Aphelios last season where he was actually fucking dog shit and I trolled our semifinals by picking Aphelios 2 games in a row.
this is true.
Zeri is actually disgusting right now, but that is its own aside.
Yeah.
But I think we should probably hop into predictions for the next week.
Yeah, I was about to
Um,
ask if you want to do predictions for next week.
no weight is on these predictions because it's only two, so the chances of us getting them right are a lot higher. Here,
Yeah.
let me swap over so we can kind of see what we're looking at here. Yeah, so it's just going to be these dates may or may not be correct. I think the Metabusters versus MVP is Spectres and Andromeda could happen a few different days. I've heard talks of it potentially being on Wednesday, so who the fuck knows? But Spectres versus Andromeda, I think, is going to be the more interesting match. I feel
Yeah,
like
I'd agree.
MVP should. I'm gonna say two. I'm gonna say 2-1 Metabusters. Just because
2-1 Meta Busters?
I think Metabusters has maybe found out what they need to improve on, and I think we will see a better performance from them this week. I am praying,
Hold
and I
on.
also think MVP has just been looking very inconsistent.
That's
So,
fair. I will say I do have an inside source saying that Silica will be laning versus Valor, so it will be like the Valor versus
oh
Silica
yeah, no,
mid lane matchup.
it's going to be a hype ass game.
Yeah,
I
I'm
just
gonna be
think
so hyped for
Andromeda
that one,
versus
but
Spectres is going to be closer. I think
yeah.
MVP will drop a game, but I think they're the better team, so I think they should win. Spectres versus Andromeda is a really tough one to call. I will predict first because
Okay.
you have influence with the team, so I whatever.
What does that mean, huh?
I don't know.
What does my influence do?
I
Like question mark?
think I think Andromeda should be able to win. Maybe.
You think so? I think okay, I'm not gonna lie, unless some
It
major
should go to
changes
three
come out, I
games.
don't
It should go to three
I think
games
it
for
will go to
sure.
games as well. Yeah.
I don't know. It's so tough to call. I think if you have someone like Rex in the jungle, I think you lose. I think if you put one of your weaker players in the jungle and prio a different lane, I think you're able to beat Andromeda.
Yeah.
Because I feel like my read on Andromeda is if you let Cam like just do his thing for the first like 15 minutes of the game, you lose. It's just over. But if you're able to play safe around your lanes and then get advantages in your lanes, I
Yeah.
think you're going to be able to win.
Hmm.
And also, Avery does have a lot of really strong carry picks. So if he's able to play into Alana, especially because
Yeah.
Avery is a huge Fiora player, Fiora into Mordekaiser, we have not seen this matchup yet. If he gets Fiora into Mordekaiser and loses, a disowned. Like, you get benched for that
Disowned?
shit. Like,
That's
that
crazy.
matchup is super free. Now, I am
Okay.
definitely one to talk because we go to stats, we go to champions, and then we go to the Fiora, and then we click on it. Surely am not the most prolific Fiora player with a 0-6 record. Surely this does not happen. I lose to
Zero and
Silas,
six,
I
no
lose to
way.
Yone, I lose to Orn, I lose to Blake's Aatrox. I actually performed better than Peter in this game on his Irelia, but I have not lost to Mordekaiser, and I wouldn't.
Interesting. Hmm. Hmm. Sus. Um.
Surely
I,
I'll get a
so so
Fiora win eventually. All right, closing thoughts. We got 40 seconds.
so your take was Andromeda versus Spectres is Andromeda 2-1, and Meta Busters is Meta Busters 2-1.
Nah, 2 inspectors. 2 inspectors, 2 on MVP.
Okay. I'm actually doing the exact same. So no hot takes here
Yep.
today, I guess. My bad.
Sag. I forgot to say predictions.
Yeah. Can you like
Oops.
write it on the screen so we have like an easy way to pull it up? TM?
No.
Pain. You suck.
We have 10 seconds. We predicted the same thing, and it's only 2 games. Surely we'll remember.
Alright. Surely
All
won't
right,
remember.
signing
Okay.
off. See
See
y'all
ya.
next week.